It was definitely a divisive group before the verdict was reached. One group who saw self defense, the other group who saw a guy who should have left during the multiple opportunities that he had. So, what would the jury decide? After watching the video I showed yesterday, the jury went back, and about 2 hours later, they came back. This is a verdict announcement on Just Legal History, and I am your host, Mike. Nicolae Miu was charged with something over 20 potential charges from first degree or second degree intentional homicide or first degree reckless homicide. For the people stabbed, there were several charges that he could have been found guilty with. The jury came back with guilty on first degree reckless homicide on Isaac. They came back with guilty on the endangering safety on the other stab victims. They also added a battery charge on Madison. We are waiting to hear from any of the juries on what their thought process was, but they saw the video and they thought Nicolae was the one throwing the first punch, which removes his self-defense stance. The next step is sentencing, but no date for that was set. Nicolae has been in jail since the incident. Let's first hear from the defense attorneys after the verdict.
How's Nicolae doing? What was his reaction to how everything went out?
He's, I thought, showed appropriate emotion throughout. You know, he's had a deep sadness, and as he said on the initial tape to the police, he said, you know, he was sorry. I know when this case first started, and there was talks about what we could do to help alleviate some of the stress and pain that other people were feeling. We did what we could in that moment, and I think that was a large part because Nick wanted to take the lead on that, and so he continues to feel those feelings. He's sad, obviously disappointed in the result, and you know, contemplating his future life.
Did he tell you anything?
I told us lots of things.
Can you share?
Shared what I wanted.
Commissioner, also these charges were added on at the end. That's something the public's, that aren't used to trials may not completely understand. Can you touch on that, as well as like what kind of penalties he could be facing now in this sentence?
Yeah. So he was originally charged with intentional crimes. By deduction, it seems like he was found. They couldn't agree on the intentional crimes, so they moved on to the reckless, and that's what he was charged with. Reckless crimes are a lesser included offense of the intentional crimes. There's still substantial life-changing penalties that he faces.
What was your thought coming into today when you walked in the courthouse? Did you feel good about the case?
You know, we felt like we had a good case. We felt like we had a good defense. We felt like we put on a good defense. But in many ways, self-defense is a community standard, and it's very dependent upon which group of 12 people within the community you ask. I understand and appreciate that. We had a lot of complex feelings going in. We felt confident, but we're also aware that it's not math. It's not black and white. It's a community standard.
Were you expecting a verdict today when you walked in? Did you think it would take longer for them to get something?
No real expectations, whatever. With juries are unpredictable, so. All right. Thank you.
Two things that stood out a bit from that. One, the length of the sentence. The attorney described it as life-changing, so he's expecting a significant more amount of time in prison than the 2 years Nicolae has already served. And second, community standard. The 12 people set their own standard in their minds. Another 12 could have set a different standard. It's the jury system we use. The next big question, does this ruling do much for other cases or shaping behavior of people? We would hope so, but I'm not sure. Self-defense is so specific to an incident that I don't think anybody is going to say, I better not do it because of the Wisconsin case. After the Zimmerman case, people thought it would play a big role, but it didn't. Will it stop people from doing dangerous activities to get that TikTok video or try to go viral? I don't know. So hopefully the other people in this case look back on how bad their behavior was that day and how close it could have been to them being on the stand for them inciting a fight or someone saying that they were the ones that hit first. At the end, it was a tragic ending, and hopefully people could be more civil and work things out with words and not screaming and fighting. Now off to other cases.